Hey everybody, Harry here, and I'm with Gary Cohen from Cova Software. Sir, how are you doing in Denver, Colorado today?
I'm doing excellent.
Great, great. Well, you're sure in one of the, it's like Silicon Valley, Silicon Forest, Denver, Seattle. I mean, there's the hotbed. Denver's a hotbed, no question about it, for cannabis and cannabis technology. So we're talking about Cova Software. First of all, what is Cova Software and what bucket are you in? I think you're in point of sale.
We're a retail management platform. So when we built this, our goal was to be the connector of the industry. And we built Cova on an open API architecture that was very sophisticated, but easy to connect into. And we actually came to Denver. I moved back. I'm a fourth generation Denverite, but I moved back to start Cova 5.5 years ago here in Denver.
Oh wow! I didn't realize I'm dealing with the founder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually above my pay grade. Thank you.
Well, I don't know about that, but but this was where it was all happening. Both from a regular, and we built out Cova first to meet Colorado regs, because Colorado was probably the most advanced and the most thorough in how they rolled out the recreational side. And we came up with this, proposition to the market that we would be compliance first. So I learned from all the due diligence we did before we started even building the software that owners would say, and by the way, we spun out of a huge POS company in Canada. So we kind of hit the ground with infrastructure and experience and all that. But as I was telling retail dispensary owners about Cova and our story and how we had all this experience and know-how, and they said, if you don't get the compliance thing, we don't care about any of that. We've gone through so much to get a license, and that's the most important thing. So we built it on helping clients preserve their license. That was in his job one.
No, I like it. You're one of I track the industry as a principal analyst, and I'm looking at the logo chart, looking at your logo. That's a very interesting take that your reason for being is compliance, because that's not the case with every logo I'm looking at.
No, and we're the largest POS in the cannabis industry as a brand, with over 1,800 stores using it and another 400 in some stage of licensing, construction, permit. And so we were the last ones in of the big companies that do what we do, and went to the went to the front of the pack incredibly fast, because we launched commercially in November of 2017.
Yeah.
So we spent over a year kind of taking the core elements from the parent company, building all the cannabis layers on top. And everyone always asks me, like, what's your secret to success? And I think that compliance piece was one thing, but more importantly, we kind of entered the industry at scale. So Cova's been technologically more advanced than where the industry is at the time. And we're, not only in IT infrastructure, so from a scalability, reliability, security, those things, but as far as the application itself, it was built in a way that it was very easy to use, easy to learn. And that was, if there's a secret sauce, it's no different than Apple's. It's the UI UX.
Yeah, I agree.
That they hadn't seen. And then lastly, we're mostly Canadian. So the majority of all of our development is in Canada. We don't offshore it anywhere else. And Canadians are the nicest people in the world.
Oh, of course.
So
They really are.
So as we were building this out, the degree of care was kind of our differentiator, because in the early days, like 18 and 19, I wouldn't say our product was superior. We went to market with an MVP, but we had all that service and support that a big company can offer. And that kind of kept us in the game. And then over the years, our product got better and better and better. And I think that, I know CEOs all the time say it's our people. And I'm going to say it too, because it was really our people that kept us in the game. And the way that we've managed the business is incredibly responsive to dispensary owners, which,
Yeah.
by the way, it's all we do. We don't do grow, MIPS, transportation. We took the 20 years of retail know-how, plugged it in here, and have applied it kind of at an enterprise scale.
Yep.
So that's our secret sauce. That's who we are and how we got here.
I like it. Now, a couple questions. Are you investor backed, or have you grown organically? Or I always ask that.
I was the lucky CEO who had the seed money from the parent company.
Okay.
As kind of a project. They have about 84% share of the cellular phone stores in North America.
Okay.
And needed to diversify, wanted to go into another vertical. But a cellular store is unbelievably complex from a technology standpoint.
Okay.
Because you never think of it, but between running your credit, programming a SIM, rate plans, hardware subsidies, warranty, insurance, exchange programs, financing, and then Verizon's systems and processes are different than AT&T's and T-Mobile's.
Yep.
So the level of complexity is huge. And their secret sauce was simplify complexity. So we did the same approach and went into cannabis because it is highly complex. So where our funding came from was originally taking all of that know-how and money from those guys. But then we did raise one round and had a private equity firm out of Saskatchewan kind of take the whole round. And Cova has been very lean and, profitable for the last few years. So that's how we've grown the business.
Final question, and let me go look at Robinhood, the trading platform. I'm just going to have a little fun with you, and you don't have to answer. But, were you at the NCIA Cannabis Business Summit mid-December in San Francisco? I went. I don't know if you or your reps went.
Not this year.
Okay, so quite good. About half the size, but they had an investor track. And I sat 2 days in the front row. I mean, just wicked smart people, right? Just laying it out for you and the investments and the economy. So I learned, I only know what I know, but I learned, last year was a bloodbath in cannabis stocks, right?
Yeah.
And so then I took their advice and I bought into some of the indexes. I'm an index guy, and I'm looking at Robinhood, and I'm basically coming about up back to break even. December was about like 2021 for whatever reason. So my question is, are you analyzing the point of sale data you get? Or, you're going to have visibility into data, and A, do you analyze it, B, do you blog it, and C, tell me what the indexes are going to do.
Well, geez, that's a whole rash of questions.
I know.
No, we don't blog on the data. We're actually we look at the data in response to kind of how our clients are doing. And Cova provides really deep and thorough reporting back to our individual clients about their business. Most of our clients are multi-store within their province or state.
Yeah.
And then we have some MSOs. So then I'm looking at all their performance. And in a roundabout way to help you answer your question, I think that from a publicly traded standpoint, there's going to be a mixed bag of winners and losers in this group of consolidators.
Yeah.
I think of the industry in terms of first every market is its own country. So every state has its own stage of development. So from nascent to mature. Then you look at what the regulatory environment is. So what is going to be the supply of whether it's growing or distribution or retail. And if you look at it over time, you can see each one of these markets is its own econ book. Like all the principles of economics kick in state by state, and you can see where they get to that point of hyper competition. And when that kicks in, all of a sudden the exuberance of the green rush wears off, and now it becomes who's efficient, who operates well. And I think that the MSOs and the bigger players in the market, there's good operators and there's bad operators.
Oh, sure.
And what we see is, bad deals, kind of like head scratchers, don't get it. But I think that when you look at who's expanding and the fundamentals of the states they're expanding into, like my hint as an investor is there's so many clues about the logic and the diligence done as these guys are trying to move into new states or consolidate within the states that they have strength in.
Yep.
And I also think we're seeing more failures. So we're seeing the inefficient players or bad operators or the people who've taken bad money. I think that if you look at the source of their funds, there's clues that they're at those second or third level desperation funding, funding aspects. And that's bad. So then within the index, you can look at who are they putting the money on, and you still have to fundamentally go down to what are those companies doing and what kind of decisions.
Yeah, I agree. I just didn't want to be a Walmart greeter at the age of 80 playing individual stocks. That's why.
I like indexes. I'm with you. But I do think cannabis has been really tough because we saw that there was a bubble. Like you knew there was a bubble, and like 2/3 of our business is in Canada. I look at those big public Canadian LPs and knowing, when you're a guy on the ground, meeting them, going to the grow facilities, I've been all over and seen it. And you saw these crazy inefficiencies, like 1 million square foot grow, and they're using 200,000 square feet. And you go, why is this? And the story doesn't add up. And eventually there's going to be a price to pay.
Yeah.
There was a ton of that. I don't think the US is the same. The one thing I wanted to share with you that I thought would be fun.
Sure.
Is, I didn't know if you're going to ask me about banking or legalization or any of that. But what I think is going to be interesting is that New Jersey and New York in no way are going to meet demand. I don't care how indoor, outdoor.
Yeah, I concur. Yeah.
You go to New Jersey or New York, go around, the ports. There's no empty, unused warehouses like we had in Colorado or the West, where we could convert and start growing. So there is no just indoor to just take it over. So you've got that situation of enormous demand, no supply or poor supply. Then you got California, oversupply, plenty of product. And you have Nancy Pelosi in charge of the Congress. You got Chuck Schumer in charge of the Senate. Seems like there's a deal to be made.
Yeah, I agree. I
Now,
agree.
how do you think they're going to make a deal? Because I don't think legalization is going to happen fast enough.
Well, yeah, I don't know what the mechanics might be to go cross border with product, right? And legalization's a longer story, but I'm coming to you from Austin, Texas, and fairly good friends with the lead hemp lobbyist up on their Capitol Hill. We've become friends, and if there's one thing Texans get is they're now surrounded by some form of legal state, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and they get it. They get it from a tax revenue point of view. The Baptists and some of the conservatives, and I'm being a little facetious, but they're probably morally opposed to weed, but they understand what that revenue would mean. You know what I mean? And so Texas could actually pop faster than you think, for that reason alone. They're going through the same debate with casinos. They don't have casinos in Texas. It's right across the border, New Mexico, and they're starting to get annoyed. Right, that money's just crossing the border. So that's kind of my take on it. Is I think the free market at the state level will, in some ways, solve the problem. Yeah, I can't speak to federal. Hoping safe banking comes through, and maybe there's a hybrid in there somewhere, right? To your
Well,
point about inventory.
see, I think that they could create some kind of treaty. In a treaty
It's a
that,
good word.
that bypasses legislation. And then the challenge will be transport, because you can't drive a truck full of pot through Nebraska or Kansas.
Yeah,
So how are you going to get it from A to B? And you could fly it, and go over Canada or go over, I just think before the end of the year, we're going to see the first interstate cannabis deal. And I think it's a win-win for both of those power brokers to benefit both of their states. And
yeah.
I think it's going to happen.
Well, let's make that the final word. And Jenny, let's get Gary back next quarter, if you don't mind. Let's just talk about the industry next time. This was a logo chat, but love to chat about you with the industry next quarter. And I appreciate you playing ball.
Yep. Well, thanks a lot, Harry. It's great to talk to you.